Dan, we're here, the Sportsman, in association with William Hill. The guys are setting up. Basically, want to have a chat and get to know you a bit more. For the people that don't know, introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
I'm Dan Dawson. I am a darts person, really. like proper football man. It's like a proper darts man. That's basically it. So I'm on the darts show. I commentate for ITV, BBC, and loads. All the other big tournaments, like Barnsley Metrodome and like the European Tour, all that sort of stuff. So look, I've been involved in darts for over a decade now in the PDC, and I love this game. And this William Hill World Championship, this is the pinnacle of it. This is amazing. I know we're sat in the dark essentially while people hand out like foam fingers, but this is amazing.
And how did you first get into darts and have that passion for it?
Look, I won't lie, I wanted to be a football commentator or a cricket commentator. They were my games growing up. That's what I wanted. Light. It's nice, isn't it? Yeah, nice.
Amsterdam.
What we've done, I've just gone a little flashback scene here, so the lights have all changed. But that's what I wanted to do, and I was sort of doing it, but I was working down in London. I got made redundant, got laid off, and a mate of mine got offered this gig to go and work at the World Championship here 10, 11 years ago. And he couldn't do it, or he didn't want to, or he didn't fancy it. And he said, well, that's my mate Dan, he got made redundant at the same time as me. And I was like, yeah, you know what, I'll give it a go. The bloke who employed me said, like, you're an expert on darts? And like everybody, I watched it at Christmas. You know, I'd watched it from any kid, any sport on telly, I'd watch it. But I was, watching Andy Fordham and Co Stompy and a lot of the Lakeside, and occasionally I'd dip into the PDC, but I was no expert on it. He goes, you'll be fine, 2 days you'll be an expert. I've been doing it for 11 years. I'm still not an expert, but I just fell in love with it within about 15 minutes of walking into this place. There is something special about this game.
And is there your first darts experience? You said you sort of watched it at Christmas, but how did that change from watching it at Christmas and working here? What was the first experience to what it is now?
The game is just... I've been very, very fortunate that while I've been involved in darts, it's just grown and grown and grown. And correlation is not causation. I've not made that happen. I've just been around at the same time. But we do the European Tour. That has grown over the last 5-6 years. It has exploded in Germany. You're seeing fans, crowds that dwarf even this lot, turning up to cheer on players and watch a tournament that's not even broadcast on mainstream telly. This is just going out online. People just want the darts experience. And despite it growing and despite there being more and more money, it's £2.5 million prize fund for this tournament and 14 million quid on the tour. The players are still accessible. They're normal players. I used to go to Champions League press conferences, and there's Ashley Cole there and Didier Drogba. They're not normal people. They're multi-millionaires from being teenagers, and they're completely inaccessible to the normal fans. Darts players aren't like that. Some of them are still working. Most of them are just normal guys or girls, and you've got that sort of people have an affinity with them. They understand. They relate to them, and I think that just shows this sport is normal people doing extraordinary things, and that's really attractive as a fan and as everybody, as a promoter, as anybody involved in this game can see why it has taken off the way it has over the last decade.
Absolutely, and we're here in Ali Pali, and obviously you work all year round, all through the circuit, but what is special about this venue, on this hill, the madness that happens here?
Well, look at it, look at it. I mean, it's beautiful. I genuinely think it's beautiful. I mean, they changed things around. It used to be at that far end, and it used to be quite a long sort of auditorium. People at the back were miles and miles away. You could only watch it on the screens. Here it's like a proper, like, Colosseum, amphitheatre kind of feel to it. And yeah, all right, it's a massive party. It's a massive party all the way up till Christmas. A lot of people coming here for their one night at the darts for the year, and they want to experience the party atmosphere. But even on those nights where it's just a big Christmas party, there are little moments in the games where everybody is absorbed. They're feeling the same thing. You can just sense the mood. I've been here when A.D. Lewis hit a 9-darter in the world final. I've been here when Michael van Gerwen won his first world title. I've been here when we've seen enormous shocks, Barney beating MVG in that incredible game on his grandson's birthday. There's just so much. Phil Taylor's last game, Rob Cross winning in that fairy tale story, having beaten MVG in the semi. All of these. Oh, there we go. There we go. Just then we'll get. Yeah, they're telling me to shut up. But And look, everything's going on around us. This is a place where magical things happen. I love it.
And you lead that on nicely with what is the greatest game that you have ever seen on that stage?
Okay, I mean, I could pick out any number of these. I remember my first one, Phil Taylor beat Barney in the final. He averaged 110.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And come on, Steve, help me out. Yeah, I'll work with him. He's not helping me out at all. He averaged 110, and I was in the press room,
3, 4, 5.
and everybody stood up and applauded when Phil came in. I was like, is this normal? Is this what happens at every tournament? I was like, but no, it was just that special. That was special, but I'm going to pick Scott Rand beating Kim Huybrechts at the World Championship. It was only the very, very early rounds. It was just a magnificent game. Scott Rand was like winking at the camera. He kissed his flights before he went for match darts and missed it. There was so much going on in that game. But that's it. It doesn't have to be the high profile, the record-breaking performances. There are moments where characters just make themselves known and endear themselves to people. And we see it happen every single year, and it doesn't always come from the quarters you would expect. That's why I love this game.
Yeah, spot on. And that's the sort of best game. More about the fans. What is the greatest, the most shocking thing you've seen at the darts from a fan?
I mean, there's loads. I mean, there was a few years ago, there was like 3 people who turned up and they were dressed as shower cubicles as their fancy dress, which like they had a shower curtain and they had like a sort of bath mat that rolled out over their feet. I don't even know why they did. I never got a satisfactory explanation of why they did. My favourite thing that I've seen a fan do was on the Euro Tour, where they pick somebody out at the start of the session and say, oh, we'll give you a walk on, you know, what's your favourite players walk on girls take them up there, and they get to sort of jump around the stage like Peter Wright or whatever. This guy goes up, I think he was wearing a toga, I don't know, and starts headbanging away, really giving it some. And then he stops, and you can tell he's not well. He's staggering around and goes off the end of the stage. The walk-on girls are trying to grab him, they're too slow. He goes right off the end of the stage. Wasn't seriously hurt, but still very funny, and ultimately that's the most important thing.
We are definitely editing that into that so everyone can see that. You know the players, you've interviewed them. What are they like behind the scenes? Are they pally? Are they dead competitive? Do they not want to give an inch?
It's kind of like I was saying earlier, they're normal guys. And they are relatable and accessible, and most of them are just like guys you'd meet down the pub or meet at work or your mates, and that's refreshing for people who are now, of course, winning big money, £500,000 the winner of this. But of course, it's competitive. This is their job for a lot of them. They're here to be winners. They don't just want to make up the numbers, and that does provide an edge. So you do get some rivalries. They do fall out. It's a very highly emotionally charged atmosphere up there, and it's, you know, you get some playground squabbles between players, but most of the time they're fine. And like they just, I think it comes across as well when you hear the interviews. You don't get many dance players who just have all of their natural, you know, their natural way about them. It's not media trained out of them like a lot of footballers. You know what a footballer or a football manager is going to say at the end of a game. They just say the same things over and over and over again. Dance players tend to just speak from the heart and shoot from the hip, and I quite like it. It's as I say, they're just normal guys.
Especially when they're talking about farting as well.
Yeah, I know. Honestly, right, the Grand Slam of darts, pronounce it right. I try and promote this game all over the place, radio, TV, across the world. I have not had as many people phone me after some security guard drops one near the stage as I did then. Suddenly everybody wants to talk about it. It's not the fact he's got £14 million on the tour, or, you know, a new title winner in Gerwyn Price. It's like, oh, somebody farted. That was good. Let's talk about it on the BBC.
Talking about hard stuff like that, who is the funniest guy on the circuit, and what's the sort of funniest exchange or thing you've seen between the players?
Oh, there are so many. Joe Cullen is hilarious. He's a great mimic. If you've ever seen Joe Cullen like mimicking other darts players' throws, he's very good. He's good at accents as well. I think it was about a 3-month spell where Joe Cullen spoke to me only through quite poor impersonations of Game of Thrones characters. Stephen Bunting is just a natural scouser. Everything has to be a joke. The funniest player I've ever met, though, and I'm not even sure it's intentional, is Richie Burnett, the Prince of Wales. He is just like a creature from another world. The greatest story I've ever heard.
Is it the pot noodle story?
The pot noodle story. That's only the second greatest. The pot noodle story, where Richie Burnett was too scared to go downstairs at a pub he was staying at. We'd done an exhibition. There was a big fight kicking off. He was dead hungry. He had a pot noodle, but no kettle. What to do? Drained the radiator to cook a pot noodle. That was good. The greatest Richie Burnett story I've ever heard. You will have to wait for. You see what I did there? That's a tease. That's a tease. Yeah.
Brilliant. Going on to a bit more how the game's changed, social media. What is the influence of sort of the new mediums and social media? How has that affected the game?
I think it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? And I think you could say this about any walk of life. Social media has given people a way to connect with their heroes, whatever sport they're in, whatever walk of life they're in. It's not just sport, of course, but sport is a big one. They see their favourite players up on stage, on the telly, and they can hear what they have to say. They can actually have a dialogue with them. I think that's fantastic, and it's empowering as fans, and it's empowering as players, and they can make a lot of capital from it, both, you know, in terms of promoting their brand and actual, you know, they can make some money out of it if they want, but also just to show that side of them, that they're more than just some bloke stood 8 feet away from a wall throwing at a tiny target. There are some bad things that come with it, and, you know, people lose their temper. You have to put up with idiots online who spend their entire time just trying to drag you down. And unfortunately, you do anything publicly, then you're going to get that. And some players fall foul of it and end up getting fined for biting back. So look, it is a double-edged sword, but I think it's a fantastically empowering thing for players and fans alike to share something that they love, which is this game, particularly as it's going all over the world now. I mean, you're seeing, I get like fans from Germany and Holland and obviously the UK, and people who are only just getting into the game, and they can't believe that A, how much they love it, and B, that they get to actually have this back and forth with players. Because a lot of the players, you know, they're not, as I say, they're not Didier Drogba and Ashley Cole and Steven Gerrard or Neymar. They're actually sort of small time enough where they might actually chat back to you. Like it's quite exciting, I think.
Massively. End up with darts is always progressing. Where is it going to be in 5 years' time? How big can it get?
I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Seeing the success story of Germany, which is really, I mean, it is massive. We've got the Premier League in Berlin, of course. We're seeing big TV tournaments in Germany and thousands of people turning up. They're getting their players now as well. Max Hopp is certainly making himself known on the tour, winning titles. Gabriel Clemens, a fantastic player, and Martin Schindler, of course, we saw here, although it didn't go well for him on the opening night. That's got to be the model. The World Series is taking the game around different parts of the world. I know that Barry Earn wants to break China and the Far East, and he wants to try and break America. They are two very, very difficult markets to break. If they do manage it, though, then the landscape of this game changes entirely. The UK is going to have to get used to the fact it does not own darts, and that means that major tournaments will go to Germany and eventually to China if it breaks over there, or America. We don't have a monopoly on this sport. We don't own it. Yes, we have had the best players for years and years and years, and we currently have the best players apart from one geezer from the Netherlands who basically schooling everybody when he really puts his mind to it. But the game will change. The game is going to change, and it needs to change because that's how it stays healthy. It could become a worldwide phenomenon even more than it is. I certainly hope so. But as long as we still see this growth and people coming to the game and realising how amazing it is, sky's the limit.
Massive. Brilliant, Dan. Thanks a lot.
Pleasure.
Let the chaos begin.